Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Newark and Sherwood series, a district of 84 civil parishes right in the centre of Nottinghamshire. Come with me as we delve into one of them. Good morning, it's 2023 now. The camera is out for the first time this year and we're beginning 2023 on top of a river which is making its debut on the channel. We haven't seen this before. This is the River Devon and you'll find this in Nottinghamshire as it runs around the beautiful little village, which includes that church over there, of Hawton. This Newark and Sherwood video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome to Hawton, a lovely little village which lies just to the south of the much larger Newark suburb of Hawtonville. Here we're 2 miles away from Newark town centre. It lies within the floodplain of the River Trent, but actually stands on another river, the Devon or Deevon, which for part of its length forms the western parish boundary. It's a scattered village consisting of very few houses and no real amenities aside from the Church of All Saints. Arguably, it's that which is the most famous landmark in Hawton. A branch of the Molyneux family, originally from Lancashire, lived in Hawton for several centuries. One of them, Sir Thomas Molyneux, added both the clerestory and the tower to the church. And Hawton may be small, with a population of less than 100 people, but I can assure you in times past it played a vital role in some of the biggest events in English history. One such event was the English Civil War, and whilst that may well be much more documented in nearby places like East Stoke, Hawton has a landmark which has a direct link to its conflicts. There are modern landmarks to the south, including a wind farm and a solar farm, and in time there will also be a brand new road to the north of the village as well. A small village with a lot to tell. This is Hawton, folks. Let's get walking again. Our walk begins on Hawton Lane, the road that connects the village to Farndon. This crosses the River Deevon on a narrow humpback bridge. Unbeknown to me at the time, its name is pronounced Deevon apparently, but I guess I won't be the first to have used the more obvious pronunciation. It's a tributary of the River Trent, and we'll see this again in many places within the Vale of Belvoir, including Bottisford in Leicestershire. Now we move to the village itself, and Hawton can be split into two parts, north and south, with the church in the middle. This is Sycamore Close. There aren't many houses in Hawton, notably the one house of major historical importance here no longer stands, that which was occupied by the Molyneux family. The site of the house can still be identified, but its date of demolition is nowhere recorded. Several members of the Molyneux family lie buried at All Saints Church. So it might be small, Hawton, but it has a few more landmarks than you might think. Obviously its biggest landmark is the church, which we'll go to in a moment. There's a postbox on the wall here though, just before we enter the churchyard, and it's a Victorian one. Look at that. We've already found something really interesting this morning here in Hawton, but there's something even more interesting, more historically important as well, over there. We'll get to that later. Next, it's the church. The Church of All Saints is Grade 1 listed, and it was erected in both the 14th and 15th centuries. Its tall tower boldly overlooks the floodplain which Hawton sits astride. I was a little disappointed that this was locked, because in its chancel are two features which make this church famous. One of these is its medieval Easter sepulchre, and the other is its sedilia. These two items feature carvings which are considered some of the best in England. They're thought to be the work of the same stonemasons who worked on the choir screen and the chapter house of Southwell Minster. No matter though, I've got to leave something for you all to find yourselves, haven't I? Here you go, here's Hawton's Christmas tree, by way of a consolation, if you like. Outside the church we have a parish notice board. Mark off Hawton, everyone. That leaves us with a nice round 30 left in Newark and Sherwood. So after the church there's a bit of a gap where there's pretty much nothing. As you can see, there's the church in the distance, and then the next property is this house right here, and then the rest of the village sort of meanders around this sort of bendy section up here, back towards Newark itself. Not a lot to talk about in this section, to be honest with you, but it does take us towards that interesting historical feature I was talking about earlier. The next property we pass is Hawton's old schoolhouse. This was a public elementary school built in 1855, and it had space for just 40 children. The road we're on now is Newark Road. It's important to note there are two Newark roads in Hawton, one either end of Cotham Lane. This northern version runs past the delightful Elbow Cottages. With houses still thin on the ground, residential properties soon give way to an industrial estate. This is Willow Farm, a collection of various business units including a car repair garage, a flooring centre and an environmental contractors, amongst others. Newark Road then runs over another stretch of water, Middle Beck, which is a drainage channel which eventually ends up in the River Deevon to the west. And if you keep going, you'll eventually come to a construction site. In a few years' time, this area will be part of a brand new 4-mile long road. So what this is going to be is a brand new road which will link the southern areas of Newark together. I think, if I remember rightly, the road will connect somewhere towards Fernwood on the eastern side and run across here towards the A46. Not totally sure on that, but that's what I think is going down here, and I think the road is due to sort of come through here. I would have thought so anyway, with these gates being here. No idea when it'll be completed or anything like that, but at some point there will be a new road around here. Anyway, that's sort of the northern limit of Hawton village, and now we're going to head back the other way. And on the way, on the right, there's a field, which is, shall we say, not just a field. Let's go and investigate it. I couldn't leave the construction site without finding out a bit more about that new road, and this is what I found. It will be known as the Newark Southern Link Road. At 4 miles long, it will indeed link the A46 near Farndon with the A1 near Fernwood, with roundabout junctions at both ends. It's designed with the intention of easing traffic congestion and improving journey times along the already existing Newark bypass by providing an alternative route to the A1. The road will also help by providing a new crossing point for the River Deevon. The new road will also open up 278 hectares of adjacent land, and seeing as it's on the edge of the Newark built-up area, the space in between will be used for brand new property development. It'll include over 3,000 houses, 2 retail and commercial centres, a 60-bed care home, 2 primary schools, community buildings, a medical centre and landscaped green community spaces, all at a total cost of £47 million. Hawton played an important part in the English Civil War as a Roundhead encampment. If you know where to look, you can still see some evidence of it. Earthworks from the time of the Civil War are very much visible in a field just off Newark Road between it and the River Devon. This is what's known as a redoubt, a word which literally means place of retreat. It's a fort-like structure designed to protect soldiers. They differed from a similar structure known as a redan, which were open at the rear. A redoubt was considered an enclosed work. During the Civil War, these were commonplace, but so far, this is the only one we've encountered. This redoubt is one of many around Newark, and it's one of the largest. It made use of an earlier moated site, and was important as it guarded the bridges over both the River Devon and Middle Beck. So that's basically Hawton village. I'm just making my way back through the village now, past the church again, back to where I parked the car at the south. And then we're going to take a drive down towards the next village. There are a couple of other landmarks that fall within Hawton's boundaries. One of them is a wind farm and the other one is a lake. And we'll finish off this episode by talking about both of them. This is Newark Wind Farm, also known as Hawton Wind Farm, which consists of 3 turbines on flat land away to the southeast of the village. Constructed in 2016 by the Danish company Aarsleff Ground Engineering, the 3 turbines generate enough energy to power the equivalent of 5,400 homes. And when it comes to power generation, these turbines aren't alone. That's because a quarter of a mile down the road, there's also a solar farm. And it consists of 21,000 solar panels located on 30 acres of former quarry land. It was built in 2011 and at the time it was the UK's largest solar farm to date. That lake I mentioned earlier is opposite at Hawton Waters. However, it's on private land, so we won't get to see it. You can though, because this is a campsite. Here you can walk, bike and run around the lake's perimeter or along the River Deevon, which runs through an area of private woodland, which they also own. And with the solar farm behind me, that's pretty much it for the parish of Hawton. Now, apart from Newark itself, from this point onwards in this district, I am totally unfamiliar with everything that remains, including the next village to the south. I've covered all the ones I know in Newark and Sherwood apart from Newark, and yeah, it's going to be fun finding out what all these are like. The next one is just as small as Hawton, as is the next one after that, and the one after that, and the one after that. It's a nice little run of 5 to the south here towards the border with Rushcliffe. So let's get on and find out what's in the next one, shall we? I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. This has been the parish of Hawton, and I'm out.